Our people are scattered, like stars in the galaxy. What are we? What do we stand for?
Hello there.
This is where the fun begins.
Hey there guys, Unofficial Star Wars here. I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to my Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 4 reaction video. We're gonna go ahead and hop right on into it. Of course, I think it should go without saying that yes, there are spoilers ahead. What an absolutely amazing episode here, finally. Well, for the most part, especially compared to last week's episode, that was something that was a bit longer, a bit more drawn out, and not completely necessarily for the story all that much. This episode was short, sweet, and did a lot more to move the story, or something of a story, forward. And to be honest with you guys, it is a little bit of a problem of mine that I mentioned in last night's preview video for this episode of The Mandalorian. The way that this season hasn't really been moving in any specific direction story-wise, or main journey or adventure-wise, compared to the first and second season of The Mandalorian. Now, it's something I'd like to discuss, a little bit deeper on into in a separate future video here on the channel, but overall gist of it is that Season 1, we're protecting the child and kind of figuring it out, Grogu, and in the second season, we're delivering Grogu to his kind, to the Jedi. And then when you insert the Book of Boba Fett in there, it really messes with things. And now with the third season of The Mandalorian, there isn't really any clear-cut direction or motive that we have exactly with these characters. But as I had mentioned, that's something I'd like to discuss in a separate future video here on the channel. I think that this episode did fine with giving us a little bit of a direction of where the rest of this season could go, and should go even at that. Okay, let's talk about it. The Order 66 flashbacks, finally. Who saved Grogu is finally explained, and it's fun, it's cool, it's not that deep. It wasn't crazy like Mace Windu came back to the Jedi Temple, or it wasn't Darth Maul or anything like that. Maybe I kind of expected that, like maybe after the events of Clone Wars Season 7, we just see Maul like fly away from Ahsoka, so it was kind of like a little bit of a fan theory in the back of my mind, like what if Maul just like found himself at the Jedi Temple and he just randomly picks up Grogu and then runs away again. But of course that isn't the case. It was something cool, and it was actually the one and only Ahmed Best, who plays Jar Jar Binks in the prequel trilogy, and recently also had like a talk show that was for Star Wars. Unfortunately, that show was, in my own thoughts and opinions, very mistreated. It wasn't put on Disney Plus, it was just thrown on YouTube, and I thought it was kind of cool. It was like I believe it was called like Temple Run or something like that. It was like a parkour show, like a Jedi training show. He had kids on there, and they're like just doing all these different courses as if they're training to be Jedi, and I thought it was really cool. It's here on YouTube, and you guys should check it out. But in my own thoughts and opinions, that show should have been on Disney Plus. But anyway, to see Ahmed Best like playing a Jedi, I think his name was Krellian or something along those lines, although I could be wrong, was really, really cool. Also underrated, but to see the Clone Troopers once again in live action for another thing, another year, more Clone Troopers is even awesomer. It's really, really cool to see those guys once again in live action. We saw them last year in the Book of Boba Fett with these Order 66 flashbacks that kind of hinted at the idea of, Grogu surviving Order 66 and having that explained and everything like that. But with some of those Clone Troopers, you can even hear them talking, and it's Tamora Morrison's voice, which I thought was even cooler for some reason. I'm such a big fan of Tamora Morrison, and I'm hoping that we finally get to see Boba Fett somewhere in these next couple final episodes of The Mandalorian Season 3 to help set up maybe for a potential Book of Boba Fett Season 2. It's something that I really would hope to see, and I think probably my biggest disappointment, that brings me to my next point, my biggest disappointment I think with this here overall episode is that I was honestly, I get myself a little overworked up, and I may even overhype it a little bit, guys, and I apologize for that in my preview videos and theory videos and that type of thing here on the channel, but I really was hoping and banking on the idea of having Ahsoka Tano show up in this episode, purely for the fact that this episode is, for one, entitled The Foundling, so it's centric around Grogu, a Force user, and also for another thing, the fact that this episode is written by Dave Filoni, the creator of Ahsoka as a character, and also the Clone Wars animated show and Star Wars Rebels animated show. So really, to me, to a point, it made sense to have Ahsoka maybe potentially show up somewhere in this episode, and I was really hoping for it, although it just didn't really happen, and that's fine, because I feel like that's something that would have felt forced at this time and being, this time and point for where our characters currently are. They're kind of just laying low in this Mandalorian covert that they're all part of. So aside from like the Order 66 flashbacks and everything around that, we also had a scene between Grogu and the armor that really sparks those flashbacks for Grogu as she's making him this Beskar piece. It's simply just a piece. That's all it is. It's something to be saved for later for him to hang on to help forge his helmet and later pieces pieces of armor in his future of becoming more of a Mandalorian foundling, which is very interesting to see him taking that path and moving forward with that. We also get to see him use his Force abilities when he's fighting Paz Vizsla's son, which is now confirmed. The kid that gets like snatched up by this big dragon-like creature from it looks like something out of Game of Thrones is what I thought of, but it was still pretty cool, very action, packed and everything like that. As this episode was directed by Carl Weathers, who portrays Grief Karga, that kind of brings me to another disappointment for this episode, is that we didn't see Grief Karga show up anywhere in this episode. But is it something that is necessarily needed? Well, no, not really. So to feel kind of forced in there, like just have Grief Karga randomly show up at this Mandalorian covert, or have Mando show up at Navarro, or something like that, just would have felt kind of out of pocket, just kind of random. Okay, and then I know I sound like a little bit of a hater here at this point, but I think my only other biggest problem with this episode of The Mandalorian is that they spent so much time trying to rescue this foundling that is Paz Vizsla's son. This is the same Mandalorian foundling that we see being like entered into this creed in the first episode, actually. With this kid being like, snatched up by this dragon thing and everything like that, it just felt kind of drawn out as a total side quest, kind of there competing with the Order 66 flashbacks there and everything like that. It just felt very slow and drawn out, and then I'm sitting there like at the point to like, I feel like this kid would have been like eaten or something like that to a point. And then towards the end of the episode, we see that they even brought like, quote unquote, as Bo-Katan called them, quote unquote, more Mandalorian foundlings, as they bring back these little baby dragon things, because well, the big dragon thing got eaten by one of those alligator things that we saw in the first episode. Anyway, I think that they really also made out really well with the runtime for this episode. A lot of people were anticipating it for it to be very just straight over and very fast and everything like that. This is the shortest episode of The Mandalorian to date, clocking in at about 30 minutes long. That's kind of without credits there, though. However, I think and I believe that this episode did fantastic with it, its pacing and everything like that, switching between the different stories and those Order 66 flashbacks, and then having the Mandalorians, Bo-Katan, Paz, and the Mandalorian Din Djarin all teaming up to go rescue this foundling child. I also would like to quickly mention that I feel like we're finally building towards a point of where this direction of the season is kind of headed toward, and I think it is very heavy to revolve around Bo-Katan, and it's been a rumor before that circulated around like 6+ months ago now at this point in time. I don't really remember covering it here all that much on the channel, but Bo-Katan potentially having her own show should and could be a thing in the future. I feel like this episode or just overall the season of The Mandalorian has done a lot with Bo-Katan and her overall character, and having her play such a prominent role was not something that I don't think anybody was anticipating or expecting to see. Not that that's bad or anything, of course. I think she's phenomenal and absolutely amazing, and I also feel like this whole fight scene between the dragon thing, I was also thinking to myself, would have gone 10 times faster if she just had the Darksaber. It's my biggest quandary with Din Djarin right now as a character. For this entirety of this season, he just does not use the Darksaber. He doesn't even try to use the Darksaber anymore, and or train with it or anything like that. So maybe to see Bo-Katan trying to help him train with the Darksaber, or to finally just see her downright just challenge him for it so she could just whoop his ass with it and then take it finally and actually put it to good use, is something that I would hope to see in the next couple of episodes, or at least by the finale of this the season of The Mandalorian here as well. Now, also that we saw there towards the end of this episode of The Mandalorian is that Bo-Katan is questioning the Mythosaur, and even reveals to the armorer that she saw it with her own 2 eyes in the minds of the Mandalore. So to maybe potentially see that in the next episode is something I think that we could be headed towards in the next direction. Anyway, of course, I would love to hear all of your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. What did you guys think here? Your initial reaction of this episode of The Mandalorian titled The Foundling? Of course, I would love to hear all of your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Of course, this has been Unofficial Star Wars, and thank you so much for watching today's video. I'll catch you guys in the next one. I'll also have my breakdown video with things that you might have missed, different Easter eggs and that type of thing on this episode of The Mandalorian out later in the day, and also with another one, a review video for The Bad Batch Season 2 Episode 14 as well. So stay tuned for those videos, as well as all types of other Star Wars related news, leaks, rumors, theories, and breakdowns that we like to have here on the channel. If you guys are into any of that, hit the subscribe button and join us here today. I'll catch you guys in the next one. This has been Unofficial Star Wars. Thank you so much for watching today's video. May the Force be with you as always. Peace out.